This video will review information from Unit 6 for the SOLs, which was the Byzantine Empire. You can see there are 5 learning targets for this unit, all of which refer to the Byzantine Empire. The first focuses on geographic influences on the empire in terms of economic, social, and political development, emphasizing Constantinople. The second describes the importance of their greatest leader, Justinian, including his code of laws. The third identifies cultural contributions of the Byzantine Empire and its preservation of Greco-Roman culture. The fourth evaluates the causes for the split in the church that occurs during this time period. And the last is describing the influence the Byzantine Empire has on Russia. Before we go any further, I want to make sure we understood what happened when Rome fell. Last unit we talked about all these different problems causing Rome to fall. After that, for the rest of the year, and for the rest of these videos, we're going to focus on different parts of really this map to look at what happened after Rome fell. This unit's going to focus on the Byzantine Empire, which at least for part of its history will be the orange, the eastern side. Remember, Constantine moved the capital when Rome was threatened by invaders from Rome to Constantinople. So notice the empire with Constantinople is the one we're going to talk about now that did not fall. The red over here is the former Roman Empire, with Rome as its capital. This is the one that had all the problems that we discussed in the last video that fell to invaders. The last area we'll look at is actually not on this map color-wise, but we're going to learn that a new religion begins down in the Arabian Peninsula and spreads across northern Africa and into Spain, called Islam. So for the rest of the year, from the year 1000 to 1500, we're going to look at these 3 regions of the world over the next couple units. So let's start with the Byzantine Empire. If you look at Constantinople, you should hopefully see it's important location-wise for a few reasons. Can you remember any of them? Well, hopefully you knew right away it was near the Mediterranean Sea, so we know it's going to be fantastic for trade. But it's even going to be better than it used to be, than Rome was for location, because coming from this side of the map is the Silk Road, which has trade from China. It comes through the Black Sea, through Constantinople, and into the Mediterranean Sea. So it's an even a better spot for trade than Rome, which just had access to the Med Sea. Constantinople has access to more trade routes. We'll see that on a map in a second. So again, the Byzantine Empire is the eastern half of the Roman Empire. You can see the zoomed in area. Today, Istanbul is on the location where Constantinople once was. It's on a peninsula, okay, with a channel, or a strait rather, connecting it between the Black Sea, the Sea of Manaar, and down into the Aegean Sea, and finally to the Mediterranean Sea. The capital of the Byzantine Empire, again, is Constantinople, and it was a great spot for 3 reasons. One, it was fantastic for trade. We talked about that. And if you look on this map down here, on the bottom, you can see how the trade from China comes through Constantinople, and the Mediterranean Sea trade goes through Constantinople. Great spot for trade. It's also well protected. It has water to the north and south, and very narrow, easy to defend land to the east and west. And kind of the obvious one, it's on the side where things weren't going bad. All the invaders are in the west. Constantinople is in the east. It's far away from the invaders. They don't have those problems. The greatest leader of the Byzantine Empire is Justinian the Great. Justinian the Great was the first leader of the Byzantine Empire. So once the empire starts to form, he's the one that kind of gets it going. The most important thing when you form a new civilization is a strong leader. He controlled the government and religion. This should tell you right away that the Byzantine Empire is a theocracy. Justinian had 3 main goals for his empire, and they all came to being like Rome. The first is he wanted to regain land lost by Rome to invaders. If we look on this map over here, this green area shows the areas that he took over. He got pretty close to the former Roman Empire at one point, but notice he didn't get the whole Med Sea, so it's not quite the Roman Empire. He also wanted to restore Roman ideas, the glory days of Rome. We'll talk more about how he did this later. And finally, he wanted to reform Roman laws. This is called Justinian's Code. He loved Rome. He really liked the way what Roman laws stood for. He didn't like how they were put together and how they were out of date. So he reorganized those laws, such as innocent until proven guilty and right to jury trials, and updated them to be for his empire. He didn't change the overall ideas. Remember, he likes Rome. Religion is incredibly important in the Byzantine Empire. Okay, the Byzantines, because they want to be like Rome, are going to adopt Christianity, just like the Roman Empire was towards its end. Unfortunately, the distance between the Roman the center of the church in Rome and Constantinople, and the lack of communication between the two meant that they're going to practice the religion different than Rome. The beliefs, though, remain the same. They still believe Jesus is the Son of God. They still read the Bible. They still use icons. They still follow the Ten Commandments. They are still the same religions. The beliefs do not change. What changes is how they practice it. Let's take a look at how that played out. So the difference between the two churches. The Western Church was centered in Rome, while the Eastern Church was centered in Constantinople. The Western Church was led by the Pope. Eastern Church was led by the Emperor, who was helped out by the Patriarch. Because the Emperor had more things to worry about than just religions. The Patriarch carried out the common everyday activities. The Western Church spoke only Latin. In the Eastern Church, in services, in the liturgy, which is service, they spoke whatever the common language was. This is known as the vernacular. In the Western Church, priests had to practice celibacy, meaning they could not have kids and could not marry. Priests in the Eastern Church could marry and could have kids. Unfortunately, though, because of these differences in practices, the church is ultimately going to split. This happens in 1050, called the Great Schism, okay? Also known as when the Eastern and Western churches split. The main issue here was a disagreement over leadership. The Pope and the Emperor couldn't agree on who was in charge. And remember, every time in history there's a power struggle, things are going to fall apart. And that's going to happen here too. So basically they agree they're both going to be Christian, but they're going to do things their own way. In the East, it becomes known as the Eastern or Greek Orthodox Church, and in the West, it becomes known as the Roman Catholic Church. Byzantine culture, though, is still going to be incredibly influenced by Rome. And not just Rome, but Greece as well. Because remember, Rome wants to be like Greece. So Byzantine wants to be like Rome, but also Greece. So the two major influences are Greco-Roman culture. That means Greece and Rome culture, and also Christianity. Some examples of this can be seen in buildings such as the Hagia Sophia. Notice, this church was a church of holy wisdom. That means it was for Christianity. But if we look at it, we can also see some Greek and Roman architectural features. Here's an arch. There's a dome on the top. There are some columns. These are all Greek and Roman influences. Notice as well, this is a modern day picture. This building still stands today. They also had a lot of icons and mosaics, such as down here. Icons were normally worshipped for religious purposes, while mosaics were normally small pieces of material pushed together to make a picture. They are examples of artwork and they're normally Christian. In addition, the Byzantine Empire was big into education at places like the University of Constantinople. And one of the main jobs of these places was to copy down Greco-Roman text. Again, they want to always be like Greece and Rome. So they're copying down works from Plato, from Homer, from Socrates, from Virgil. All these things are being written down and preserved by the Byzantines. I wanted to take a second to look at this picture again. We've used this picture a few times in class this year, but I think it does a great job at reviewing the Byzantine Empire. We notice Justinian is in the middle of the picture because he's in charge. On his head is a crown. That means he's in charge of the government. Behind him looks like a sun or a halo. This would suggest that he has a religious purpose as well, making it a theocracy. On the side, we see soldiers. This reminds us that they are an empire that wants to expand because we can see smaller heads behind these soldiers, meaning it's a large army. They also probably fought in the Greek style of phalanx, as they have shields and spears. On the other side, we see some religious people. We know they're religious because of crosses, and we could guess this might be the Bible. So we know they're Christian, another Roman influence. Who's this guy? Well, we can guess this guy might be the Patriarch. He's a priest, but he's dressed differently, and he's right next to Justinian, showing that maybe he's an important person. You can also see on the side some columns. These columns would have been influenced by Greece and Rome, and some writing. It's probably Latin. The last thing we'll look at with this is the influence the Byzantine Empire had on Russia. Because Byzantium was in such a great trade spot, they were going to experience and become connected through trade with the Russians. The Russians lived north of Byzantium along the Dnieper River at a city-state called Kiev. Eventually Kiev's going to grow and be much bigger than our typical city-state. So they start trading with the Byzantine Empire, and the Byzantine Empire sees an opportunity to spread Christianity to Kiev. Remember, They had just become a new version of Christianity. So they're going to want to spread their version more, their Eastern Orthodox version. To help this be successful, St. Cyril, a missionary who spreads religion, created the Cyrillic alphabet, which combined the alphabet of the Slavic-speaking members of Kiev with the Greek alphabet popular in the Byzantine Empire. In addition, Vladimir, after learning about Christianity, is going to force his people to convert to Christianity because he wanted to have that economic and military connection to the Byzantine Empire. Once they become Christian and become really tied to the Byzantine Empire, we're going to see Kiev start to copy a lot of the culture and architecture of the Byzantine Empire. If we look here, we can see some domes, some columns, some arches, again suggesting that they copied the architecture of the Byzantine Empire. And that concludes Unit 6 for the SOL, and hopefully it is helpful in your studying to get ready for the test.